Hello, welcome back to this is an episode of COVIDeos with Nick.
And my name is Lance.
So this week we I guess COVIDeos is a series in which we for some reason you're stuck inside for months, 2 years, 2.5 years at a time, and you can't really get to the theater quite as much as you used to. You might want to know what's on streaming and what's good to watch while streaming.
Yeah.
So we tend to watch stuff that you can get on pretty easily on a streaming service. One of the big major ones, at least.
Yeah. We were trying to figure out where exactly we were going to put this one because, we're trying to get to the newer releases. So
when they come out, if something comes direct to streaming, we'll and it's fairly popular, such as Turning Red, which just dropped on Disney Plus last week.
Yep.
So we decided to give it a watch and see what we think about it. Because usually Pixar movies, those are usually hits for us, I think. So we went into this one pretty. I don't know that there's any Pixar. Is there any Pixar movies that you're like, man, I hate that Pixar movie?
No, there's no Pixar movies that jump to mind. Early Toy Story movies, Toy Story 1, great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Toy Story 2 and the rest of them, I wasn't really feeling them, but I've gone back and since watched them, and they're I don't think Pixar's done anything I wasn't expecting a lot from Coco.
Is that Pixar? I guess it is, isn't it? I can't remember if that was Disney Studios or Pixar, but I guess it is Pixar, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure Coco's Pixar.
So I went into Coco expecting something pretty good, and I liked Coco. And I think the only Pixar movie that I think I've skipped on some of the sequels, but the Cars ones I've just skipped entirely.
Yeah. Well, the first Cars was good,
mm-hmm.
and then they made a part 2, which should have literally been called Shameless Money Grab, because I think that's what they're kind of harping on in the Owen Wilson Cars 3 Saturday Night Live thing.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, I don't know if I like the direction this character's going in, and it's like, oh, here's your check. Well, let's make this thing,
Let's make magic.
Yeah, and then they made Planes, and Planes wasn't. It wasn't amazing, but it's just, again, I think it's kids love the talking vehicles.
Yeah, so I guess we're dealing with rare misses, I guess for adults at least, for Pixar.
Yeah.
And so they Disney decided just to drop this one straight on Disney Plus, which is kind of
unusual.
Yeah, they've done it with the Luca, and they did it with Soul, which I guess I wasn't super into Soul. It was all right, but that was what's one I watched. I was just kind of like, meh.
I have watched Soul 3 times now.
Mm-hmm.
First time I watched it myself, and I was just like, okay, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tina Fey is adorable, and it is, I think, 22 or something like that.
I don't really remember anymore.
But the second time I watched it, I got a lot more out of it.
I might rewatch at some point in time, but there's so much more I'd rather watch than rewatch Soul at this point.
I get it. It's not one of their tippy tops.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one that I will put on just to eat a pint of ice cream and sit in my chair and just to watch. But it has its merits. It's a cute movie. But anyways,
so it's just the last in the line of Disney Plus throwing Pixar movies right to streaming, which seems unusual to me, I guess.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's a sign that they're worried that it wasn't going to make much money, or is it just kind of or is it just because it's people they want to entice people to pay for Disney Plus? I think that might be it kind of too, because they about the same time they put out that out, they got all of their streaming shows off of Netflix, Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, and stuff, and now they're all on Disney Plus, and you have to go through and update to be do you want this profile to be able to watch these TV 14 plus stuff?
We did that tonight. Because we forgot the password, and we were trying to show Jack Bluey. And we sat down, and it's put in the password, and we were like, crap. So we have ticking time bomb baby sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
And I was like, just run shit on YouTube, and I'll try and figure it out. So, but luckily we got there.
All right. So usually when we talk about a movie, we get into spoilers pretty heavily, but we like to tell you what our scores are first, and then we're going to start talking about the movie a bit more in depth. So lately we've been trying to predict what each person is going to rate the movie, and then we'll give them the rating, and then we'll show our predictions on our very handy dandy high tech pieces of paper in which we've written on a Sharpie.
Yeah, if you want to, I can buy Etch-a-Sketches. And we could do those in the
and
future.
It'll be a very boxy 8.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a square with a line through it. It's an 8.
Yeah, I mean, but do you have any idea how hard it is doing that square and then getting it right back up that line so you could come across? And then I don't know if that's going to translate well because the lines are so skinny. Okay.
No, it's going to hold it up and it's going to and then be clear. Be like, God damn it.
I'll buy a Woolly Willy and then we'll just kind of do it on that. But oh my God, there's like some 60-year-olds like
Woolly
for
Willy.
that one. All right, so
people who watch Bo Burnham will get Woolly Willy at least too. At least the reference to that is the thing exists. Oboe, or yeah, it was called Oboe. I look like really Woolly Willy, but they're really Woolly Willy. And I bypass the bouncer. Put up a flex and you don't remember that? Do you remember that song? I'll have to show you later. Okay, so predictions. Would you like me to give my rating first and then predict, or would you like to throw up your?
After you.
Sure. So after I watched the movie, and I was like done with it, I'm like, meh. I'm thinking it's like a 5. But then I start to think about the movie, and I'm like, actually, you know what? I think it's a 4.
Really?
So I think I'm going to give this one a 4.
4. Okay. Well, I thought you were going to say.
Well.
I thought you were going to say a 7.
So we're 4 points off of that one.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get into it when we get into it.
When we discuss a little bit more. So what did you think?
So
of Turning Red.
I've watched the movie about 3 times. Once for our hobby, and then 2 more times because Jack loves the big red panda. The first time I watched it, I would have given that movie a 3, maybe a 2, because it's beautiful. The animation is so fluid. The characters, they look good, but it's like, and I know that this is going to come off the wrong way when I say this, but when I say the characters are unattractive, I don't want my kids to be like, "Meow," but it's like the character models.
They're kind of
they're a little offsetting. They're a little off-putting, and that's
the animation style is different, and I don't know.
But it's fine. Like I didn't have any problems with it, but it's like I don't want all the characters to be like gorgeous or anything like that. I liked the character designs and the character models, but it's like you could definitely see that someone was like, we don't want to make all the characters like super. We don't want to make another animation where all the characters are like super beautiful or anything like that. We want them to look like common everyday people, and I am down with that. That's fine. But it's just like it was just kind of odd. But since I've watched it 2 to 3 more times, I would give this movie a solid 7.
Okay. Well, let's see what I get. I predicted closer to a meh 5.
Okay. And I'll explain why I've rolled back. But I had the epiphany the other night. It's a nice 75-cent word for you.
Epiphany?
Yeah.
Is that a big word now?
I didn't give it the full $1.
No, okay.
Yeah. Slightly above 50 cents. Okay, 65 cents. I mean, I'll settle. But I noticed that when I watch movies, sometimes on the first viewing, I don't catch everything. On a second viewing, you get a little bit more out of them. Plus, if there's like a subtext that's going on within the movie, sometimes I get a little bit more of that as well.
Yeah.
Because you watch it, you get an idea of what you're watching, then you watch it again, and maybe you get more out of it. Because it's like when we were talking about Spider-Man 3 the other night, when first time I watched that movie, the second Venom started talking like this, I was like, fuck this movie.
And then you watch it through with your tempered expectations, and then it's funny.
Yeah, it's not only is it funny, but it was a decent movie. Like all the stuff with Venom on the screen, but like when Thomas Hayden Church.
No, he was really good.
He was
Spider-Man 3.
Brilliant, and he looked the part. But anyways, we're not talking about Spider-Man 3. And
we're tangenting.
Reining the tangents in. So.
All right, so those are our ratings for Turning Red. At this point in time, it's up on Disney Plus if you want to watch it. I mean, I don't know that 2 middle-aged white guys is gonna sway your opinion unless you happen to be one.
Unless you're like a 10-year-old watching this and you're like, yeah, I was kind of on the fence about this movie, but these old guys sound like they kind of like it. So,
well, hopefully by now you've got at least a decent idea of what kind of movies we like. And I mean, a 7 and a 4, you've got an array of opinions sitting right here. And now I think we'll give you a second to click off if you don't want spoilers because we're gonna start talking about the movie.
You're still here. Beat it.
All
Nope.
right.
There he goes. Okay. There she goes too.
Saying that whenever I think about this, I imagine like me sitting in bed being like, "Oh shit, I need to turn this off," and being like, "Where's the remote? Oh, there it is," and be like, oh. And that plenty of time. See,
And there they go. Okay.
I could reach for my red. All right, so turning red. If I was to summarize this movie as a reason why it went from like a 5 to a 4 to me, because I watched it, I'm like, okay, whatever. But then, so the red panda is kind of a mixture of metaphors. It's kind of like, I mean, literally the color red, and kind of the young girl with dealing with red, so kind of going through puberty and getting her little red monster, as it were. Mm-hmm. But there's also just kind of the like when you're going through puberty and your body's changing. So this is a young girl, who realizes that her body is going through a bunch of changes. Mm-hmm. And then she uses her body and sells it for money, taking photos with a bunch of her classmates. And now she can afford to do whatever she wants. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't like that message. And once that was in my head, now it's there.
Okay.
And I know it's you're mixing your metaphors, because I mean, sure, her body's changing into a literal cute thing, but now people only like her because her body's cute. Because did she go through a change really? She's less controlled by her mother, but before the movie started, she was unabashedly herself, and she was proud of who she was. And at the end of the movie, she was proud of who she was and unabashedly herself. So she didn't go through necessarily a change. It was her body went through a change.
I see your point. So the first time I watched it, I had kind of the same thing where it was kind of like, okay, this whole movie is like a metaphor for like becoming a woman, which to me, Pixar doesn't usually kind of like hone in on one side or the other. They usually make something for like right down the middle.
Yeah, because I mean, like from Inside Out or whatever. I mean, Riley could have been any kid.
Right, but like, well, yeah, but like on the second and third watch, what I was getting more from the film was it's less about her body changing and, her being, disobedient or whatever. Mm-hmm. To me, it was more about like family trauma. Mm-hmm. You have expectations. Your parents force certain expectations on you of what they want you to do. Mm-hmm. And then as you're becoming an adult and you're supposed to be able to make more choices. And it's kind of like the deeper meaning that I got behind the movie was she was kind of doing what she thought was her obligation, but she wasn't able to really express herself to her mother. She had to hide that because she also had these preconceived conceptions of like, or these preconceived notions of what her mom wanted her to be. She wanted to stay this perfect little girl for the rest of her life. And then she had to kind of like break that mold. And then you find out later on that the mom was basically underneath the same thing with her mother. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like you get an idea of what the world is and how you should act, and then you push that on your younger version of you. Yeah. And then when they start to stretch outside of that picture, it's like it muddies the water, and like for some reason all the characters, they feel shame that they've let their parent down or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I felt like the movie was a wider metaphor of eventually you have to just give your kids room to be them. Mm-hmm. You can't, and I think I see what you're talking about when you say about the whole selling yourself for like money or whatever like that. But like, I felt like that was the pump fake about, becoming a woman and getting, her period or whatever. I think that was more of a pump fake with the title of the show, because honestly, that never really came into it. It was
not really. They kind of did the pads joke or whatever.
Yeah, and then it came back again later on in the movie. But it's like, I feel like that was the head fake, because that seems like that's what a lot of reviewers are like focusing in on. If there's anything that makes me uncomfortable about the movie, it's that she's a 13-year-old girl. And like the part at the end of the movie where she's like, I like boys, I like doing this, and that's all great. Mm-hmm. But then like her character's like doing the butt thing in her mom's face just to like, it's like, okay, I don't know if that's something that 13-year-old girls were, I'm exploring my sexuality. So that's, that's going to be the first line I'm going to draw. If you're a parent that's so restrictive, and I say this as a man, and if I had a daughter, I know this would be ironic because I know I'm going to be that dad that's sitting on the couch like, You mess with her, I'm going to fucking kill you. But that said, you know, I feel like the bigger message of the movie was be yourself. Don't live to your parents' expectations. Be your best self. But you should also honor your parents. And, you know, like, they're giving you a place to live. It's you are you, and you're awesome because of the examples they set of you to you when you were little. And then as you get bigger, you get more heroes and a wider range of people to learn from. And then that's what shapes you to be you. And I think that's why she was an awesome character. And I think that's why I really liked it, because you could see there was like that turmoil where, you know, she wants to be herself with her friends, and she's singing about, what was it,
Whatever it was, for something or other.
Yeah.
Four Town?
Four Town, that's what it was. And like, all that was great. But then the second, like, she has to hide the shit underneath her bed. Her mom finds something, she flips the fuck out and embarrasses her. Like, it's just, I just got more from it the second time through, because
I mean, it's definitely kind of the main focus of the story is between the mom and the kind of overprotective mom and the kid who just wants to, I don't know, please her mother, but also please her friends, and you can't do both at the same time necessarily.
Yeah, but like, you know, I guess what really hit home for me was how she was acting around her mom. And then the very first time, the husband's like, your mom's on the phone, and she's like, I'm not here. Yeah. And like jumped down behind the couch, and it's like, okay, so you're scared of your mom too. And then eventually they get into the whole thing of, okay, the reason that my mom is ashamed of me is because I married your father. But her dad was awesome.
Yeah, well, for what he said anyway, he was very subdued and barely a character in my opinion.
Agreed, but like, you know,
but also the story wasn't necessarily about him per se. It was about May and her mother.
Yeah,
he was like a little bit like of her friends. Only like one of the real friends was important. Was her name Miriam? Is that what it was?
Yes, the girl that races.
Yeah, and then Abby and Priya were just essentially kind of like side characters. They would occasionally do a thing, but Priya's whole character was she didn't talk much. So
yeah,
she didn't talk much. And then Abby would just kind of occasionally yell like one line or yell some stuff in Chinese and not really do much else. So those two didn't really feel like they felt about as fleshed out as her dad, which was not very thick, I suppose.
Amber has a theory that the short, chubby one, what's her name?
Abby.
She has a theory that that's Gru's youngest kid. When she does the whole, it's so fluffy, like when she does that, it's so fluffy, and like rubs her head in the belly. But yeah, I just got a lot more out of it, and maybe it's just because I'm a dad. I don't know, but like, I watched it the first time and I was like, okay, this is obviously something that's kind of keyed towards women and young people. So it's not really talking to me. And then when I watched it again and saw basically the lesson of how we do our best to do good for our children, but then it's like we go too heavy in the paint and we want them to be this perfect picture.
It's you kind of remember how bad you were in all the ways you fucked up, and you just want to fix it and see, like, try to curb that in your in your own children or something like that.
And honestly, in fixing that, so one of the best parenting lines I got from a movie, unbelievably, was the reboot of the Jay and Silent Bob movie.
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, they're sitting in the car with, I think it was Red Man and Method Man, and he's like, I just found out I'm a father. And I think Method turned around and he said, you remember all the shit that your parents did that fucked you up? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, just don't do that. And they're like, oh. And it was like, that is so fucking simple. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You know? But like, I just had that thing where I was watching it with Jackson, and it's like, okay, when the girl goes in to like fix all of their panda, when they go in, like, do the big circle, and like all the women of the family go in, and then she runs into her mom first, and she's like, I messed up, I ruined my relationship with my mother. And she could totally see herself in her mother, and it was like, that was the biggest thing. I think it's a very important message that, you know, we can't force our expectations on our children. All we can do is give them the best guidance we can, prepare them for a world that's ultimately just poised to fucking devour them and spit them out, and just make them as ready for it as possible. But like, you know, just kind of ease the fuck back a little bit, because if you're super strict parent, it's not gonna go great for your relationship with your kid, because then they just turn into sneaky kids.
Oh yeah.
And I was a sneaky kid, but it's not that my parents were restrictive or anything like that. It's just I knew what I can get away with. So but Yeah, I think that's what I got out of it when I was watching the second time. Jack's like was laying his head on my belly, and the entire time I'm watching, you could just be too much of something, and I'm just looking at the kid like, fuck, man, how am I gonna avoid like fucking this kid up? But I know I'm gonna do my damage.
Yeah, don't worry. Every kid is fucked up in some way.
You're right. You're exactly right. No, there's no parent who's ever gotten it right, and one of the funnier things we found out when we had Jackson is they always say there's no manual for kids. Mm-hmm. But the other thing I found out was there's no shortage of fucking opinions either.
Oh yeah, people will definitely let you know what you were doing wrong.
Yeah, and it's like, why need the manual when everybody else seems to have the answers? But then their kid, my kid, different stories.
Yeah, it's kind of like what a lot of people bring up, like the nature versus nurture, and I believe it's a mixture of the two. Because some personalities require nurturing, some require or just like this kid is just naturally going to be a good person regardless of what they see. Some it's the environment that they grow up in is really going to focus who they are, and some people need like the tight leash more than others to be like good-ish people, because some people are just, I don't know, pieces of shit.
Well, it's a balancing act. If you have parents that basically, and this might not necessarily be true. Every person out there is different.
Yeah.
But like, to me, it's like you have to have the parents that when you're doing shit you're not supposed to do, they're supposed to let you know you're not supposed to be doing that. You can't go too hard in the paint and like start spanking them for every little infraction. Mm-hmm. But like, if anything, you need to let them know. If you do shit like this, you're going to grow up to kind of be a fucking douchebag. The parents that ignore that stuff, that proliferates the fucking behavior, and then that's when some of those people grow up to be dicks. Mm-hmm. Or the parents that don't pay attention to people at all. You have depressive, reclusive people. Like it's a huge cocktail of interaction. Mm-hmm. It's you get out in the world, and everything that the world gives you, it kind of forms you to be what you are. And when you're young, you're very, very open to any information that's coming in. When you get older, like I am right now, you stop giving a shit about people's opinion, and oh my god, that is so freeing. Oh my god, when I walk into a room, I don't have to worry about like this person or that person. I don't give a shit what they think. I've got my kid, I've got my wife, I've got my friends, I've got family, people who love me. I'm good on Friends, so it's kind of like I don't really give a shit what people think. And oh man, that has been so liberating, let me tell you. But I think I just got more out of the movie just because I was kind of watching it from a parent's eyes. Because like I remember when I was watching it. I'm sorry that I'm overrunning the conversation here, but and this will be the last part that I'll say, and then you could talk for like the next 45 minutes. I remember when I was watching it initially in there with Jackson and Amber. We got through the first 25 minutes of the movie, and I looked over at Amber and went, "Are you enjoying this at all? Are you like getting anything out of this?" And she was like, "This seems like it's more geared towards women." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I don't feel like they're talking to me." Mm-hmm. But it's like I wasn't listening for the underlying message. I was looking at it at the surface level. And then once I went back and made the emotional connection with what they were trying to get across, then I was more open to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I sat down to watch it, and I don't need movies to talk to me. I'll get my own shit out of movies. Like, the protagonist is being women, children, adults, old people, whatever. It's never carried a big deal with me. So, I mean, sitting down to watch it, I'm like, fine. That doesn't influence my opinion necessarily at all. I just kind of watch it for the characters and kind of what's going through it. And it just didn't really do much for me. Because, I mean, the greater message of, like, respect your children and respect your parents and all that kind of stuff, I mean, yeah, okay, cool. And the message is nice, but the characters themselves, I don't think May goes through any real, like, I think she's emotionally in the same place at the end of the movie as where she was in the beginning, except now her relationship with her mother is slightly different. And even then, it's not super different, because, I mean, how does she talk to her mother at the end? The same way. It's just now she has more freedom to go hang out with her friends. And so maybe the circumstances have changed, but emotionally, I don't think she's gone through a big change. Maybe her mother more so, but even then, it's not necessarily, maybe she's just less restrictive, I guess. But I was expecting, like, through kind of, because when they were talking about like this panda thing that we're going through, back in the day it used to be very important, but nowadays it's like just kind of inconvenient. And I was expecting for that to like, okay, they're setting up that it's inconvenient nowadays, maybe they're gonna like turn it on its head and kind of, if all the women in the bloodline are getting it, and they even kind of show like, here's my here's the gem that contains my red panda. I'm like, well, that's going to come out at some point in time. It's going to break, and now it's going to be unleashed. But the way they kind of talked about it was like, if you miss this opportunity, you're this forever. So I was expecting what was happening to the mother to be like, well, now she's got to learn how to deal with it too.
Yeah.
And that never occurred. And same with like the way the grandmother and all the aunts and stuff could just break their thing, become pandas real quick to help out, and then just go back to being a human, felt inconsequential because they didn't sacrifice anything.
I really feel like the only reason that whole part was there is just so you could see the different versions of the cute panda people.
You see all the cute panda people, and they just pulled it back in, and then they're all back through. They walked through like instantaneously.
I love that even the grandmother still had the scar. When she was in her panda mode, she had like these wicked looking like swirls on her arms.
But that also calls into like, so May had a hard time walking through because she turned into the panda a lot. And so you turn into the panda a lot, it's hard to go back to being a human. Or just being like just a human. They had the test. The mom and dad had the test of like, here's the things to make sure your emotions are in control. Meaning that I would think that all these other aunts and stuff have gone through a lot to keep it in, but they'll just like walk right through like it's not even an issue, making it seem like it's super easy to control, but it's not easy for May to control. So those just don't seem to mesh. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like they had theirs suppressed for like years and years and years. They brought it out just for that one show, and then they basically kind of pushed it back down.
Which means it does go away. And in the next Red Moon, you can make it go away if you don't want it anymore. And it seems inconsequential that it has to be done now. It doesn't have to be done now. It can be done in 20 years. It can be done in 30 years. It can be done in the future. It doesn't matter.
They just read that part of the scroll wrong.
It
You have to also have that pressure, it has to be done now or it's there forever. It adds that extra pressure. But like, I agree with you. Like when May tries to push through, she's having to push and push and push. But I think it's also
like she wanted it maybe.
Yeah. Like she didn't really want to part with it. She just didn't understand it. It was scaring her because it was different. And then once she came to terms with it, then it seemed like everything was fine. Like she wasn't trying to push through the gate or anything like that, which makes me wonder if and she even passed the kitten test, and everyone was like, oh, when she passed the kitten test, so she's gonna be fine with it. But yeah, I agree with you. I honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about how the mother changed, but the daughter didn't. But she was like already her best self, and her mom was just gripped so tightly. Don't go to the concert.
She learned to relax a little bit.
Yeah, like, I mean, honestly, if anybody ever threw me in a car and took me up to a fucking store and like berated some chick that I drew a picture of publicly in front of my friends like that, I would never talk to that parent ever again. But just the fact that she went through it. But yeah, I think that's ultimately just who needed to change. The mother just needed to see this isn't your 6-month-old little tiny baby anymore. You need to ease the fuck back and let them become a person. Otherwise, you're just cutting off the oxygen from like their social growth.
Maybe. I mean, the mother needed the change the most. But I mean, May went through very little change, like emotional change, in my opinion. And maybe I'm missing something, but I see her like in the same place at the beginning as she was at the end. But now she could turn into a panda.
Well, yeah.
And she loved her mom before. She respected her mom before, but now she loves her mom and respects her because her mom respects her boundaries, which is nice. I mean, that's a nice change, but she didn't change.
I see exactly what you're saying, but like I said, I don't think it was May that needed to change. Her body changed, which was a new obstacle for her, but like the mother, as far as like making her go to work every day,
which she still does.
Yeah, well, but she had her father fill in for her that one thing, so at least there's the flexibility.
She still works every day, but now she's got some freedom to do some. Her mother will give her the freedom to do some other stuff instead of always having to go home and work for the entirety of the day. But I mean, when the draw of your shrine is the fact that like, oh, my daughter's a red panda, she still has to be there every day.
Yeah, that's true. And then she's also selling her body at the temple as well.
Yeah, that's a little better.
Makes her mom a pimp. I don't know, madam.
Well, again, that metaphor is not.
I'm messing with you.
It's not a good metaphor. It's just like when I was thinking about it, like she learns like, so is this supposed to be like a metaphor for her body changing? And then she's like, oh, look at this, look at what my body can do now. Like check out all this stuff. Look, I can sell it for people at school. I can take photos for it and give them. I'm like, this seems like they're crossing metaphors, and it's all very messy and not super like nice and tidy.
Yeah.
That I can pull the strings across. But I think we've mentioned before that when you like a movie, all those little shits, you can just overlook that stuff. And when you don't like a movie, you're just kind of looking for it. And I'm thinking, I watched this movie and I wasn't super into it, so I'm just looking for stuff that I'm like, I have reason to pull it apart because I'm not like, oh man, this story was super amazing and it really gripped me. It wasn't amazing to me. It didn't grip me. So now I'm pulling at threads.
Yeah, it's funny because when I suggested this one to you initially, I hadn't watched it yet. I was like, oh, this is going to be a new movie. It's going to be relevant, something that people are still searching for, and hopefully we get more views. But
Don't blame them.
No, I'm not blaming anybody. It's just that one
very,
person.
Very accusatory.
That one person right now is like, he's watching it for the first time, and he's like, holy shit, I'm helping.
Yeah,
so,
you
so maybe I had the wrong face. I was doing the Nicolas Cage face.
No, don't do the Nicolas Cage face. It's not inviting.
I know. And the mustache hides my upper lip anyways, and that's where all the acting is for Nicolas Cage. But anyways, I mean, you're absolutely right about that. It's the first time I watched it, whenever I suggested it, like I was sitting there with Jack, and we're watching it, and the plan was, watch the first half of the movie, pause it, give Jack his bath, come back, finish the rest off while he's going to bed. Mm-hmm. Watched 25 minutes of it and looked at Amber and was like, are you getting anything out of this movie? And she's like, yeah, as a girl, it's like I'm connecting with a lot of what she's saying. A lot of this is true. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I don't feel like this movie has me in mind. Mm-hmm. And that's unusual for a Pixar movie because it's, like I said, they usually bomb the entire field. They don't just go right up the middle.
Yeah.
So like I walked away and started running Jack's bath while Amber continued to watch the movie. Then I took Jack back, gave him his bath, which took about 20-25 minutes because he wanted to play that night. So, like, when I brought him back out, Amber's still watching the movie, and I was like, did anything interesting happen? And she's like, well, these little parts happened. And, like, by the time I got back, I think we were already at the crux of the movie where, like, it was giant mom, kaiju mother with perfectly coiffed fucking...
the mom Karen hair.
Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know, like, the second watch... I just really got more out of it, which made me actually, if you want to do another series called Worth a Second Look, where like you watch a movie and you're just like, this movie's trash, and then you go back, maybe with a different context a couple months later, and
I'd need more than a couple months for this one, I think. Just because I watched this movie and there's some stuff in it that's amusing. Like I think one thing I kind of liked is like when May and her friends like Miriam and stuff were in. And May was like, you have to go. My mom doesn't like you. And Miriam's like, your mom doesn't like me? And then she's like, just pushes him out the window. And the other two are like, yeah, it's cool. And then Miriam's just looking sad, like, I didn't know your mom didn't like me. That's funny to me. So, I mean, there's stuff in this movie that's I like. It's just, there's more in it that I just don't like. So, hence why I edged from a 5, where it's kind of like, meh, to like a meh.
No. Yeah, she's the character of May is definitely adorable, and I really liked Priya too. I always like the characters who speak somewhat monotone with no real emotion.
I mean, I like that.
Yeah, of course.
'Cause I'm monotonous, and I don't really express how I feel.
Yeah, but like, well,
I didn't. She was barely a character. Abby was barely a character to me. May didn't go through much. Her mom went through stuff. Her dad was barely a character.
Yeah, I agree with you, but like. I guess the parts that I really thought was cute was the first time she's in school dealing with it, and like the kids, they're fucking with her in the hallway or whatever, and like the hand transforms, she's like, and hides it, and then the tail explodes out the back of her skirt, and she's like shoving it up underneath there and like crab walking. Mm-hmm. I thought that was funny.
It's like when she's in the bathroom and the girl comes out and she's like, oh my god, she just pushes her back in. I mean, there is funny stuff in it.
Yeah, the when she goes by the shop for the first time and sees, I think it's Tyler. Mm-hmm. The guy working the thing, and she does the leg thump and does the ooga. Mm-hmm. It was like, I'm sure there's a lot of women that were like, it's funny, and then there's more women be like, see, men, that's how we feel when you do it to us. Because that's the thing that struck me about that 2 years ago when that whole Fox call thing went through, mm-hmm. and it's not a good practice, but it's just awful. They kind of brought that thing back up, and I was kind of like, who thought that was a good call to like put that back in there? But I thought that part was funny. And then the best part of the entire movie was at the party where they're having a good time. She's there entertaining people for the money or whatever, and you had the two wallflowers that were over in the corner, and she like walked over and she hooked them with their tails, and she did that little cheeky smile with the eyebrows, and then she like drags them back to the party and throws them back in there. Like I had to watch that part like 5 or 6 times just because I thought that was absolutely adorable.
Although if I'm ever at a party and I'm like sitting at a wall and like looking like I don't want to be messed with, don't come over and pull me into shit.
Even if it's a giant panda?
No, leave me the fuck alone. It's if I'm at a party, something's wrong. I don't want to be there.
You came to my super soft birthday party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not because I wanted to be at a party. It's because I want to be here for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, buddy.
I hate parties. Like gatherings of a large amount of people. I'd rather be home alone around nobody, watching movies on Netflix or Disney Plus, where I can be isolated by myself.
I've discovered like Amber collared me with extrovert. Mm-hmm. But honestly, it's like when I get in social situations now, it's like it's draining for me. Like by the time I'm done, it's like I'm already like halfway to the car, halfway through the party, because sometimes like putting on the smile and talking to people takes a lot of fucking mental energy. Now, if I'm talking to people I love, I'm fine. Yeah. I could talk to you all night long. But if I'm like literally searching every other fucking paragraph to find the next thing to connect you with, like that to me is just, it's draining. And I found that's been happening a lot at parties lately.
Yeah, it's whenever I go to a social interaction like a party, like on the drive over, I'm like, okay, I wonder what time is socially acceptable for me to leave. If me walk in and be like, hey everybody, and then just dip, can I do that? No, I'm like, I probably can't do that. So I hang around for a bit until like someone else leaves. I'm like, oh, time for me to go too.
Well, I mean, that's literally like that's the minimum protocol. Never show up first. Mm-hmm. Be a little fashionably late, and that way it doesn't look like you're over eager to get there. Plus, you shave time off the front if it's something that you're not like super wanting to be there. Now that said, I know that maybe some people that I've gone to your parties, that's what happened, but it's just because mainly life is so fucking busy for us right now. Finding time is a chore. But I also don't want to be the last one at the party because I don't want to be that person where people are just like, go home.
It's time to leave.
Yeah, you came, you ate some stuff, you told a few jokes, and we had a good time. Pick up the Clue phone and get the fuck out of my house. Like, I don't want to be that person.
No, I'm definitely an introvert. And when like, all you have to do is change the context of, because like sometimes we'll get together for board games. I'm like, this is cool. But then you change the context, and it's the exact same amount of people that would be there for like D&D or a board game. But now it's a barbecue, and now I don't want to be there. Because it's like the context changed to it being from hanging out or whatever to or from like doing a thing. It's like we're all showing up here to play D&D. I'm like, all right, let's play D&D. Or we're all going to show up and hang out and be social. I'm like, I don't want to be social. I want to be home. And just that little context change is enough to kind of flip some sort of switch in my brain to make me not want to be there anymore.
There's some days that we sit and we usually bullshit. We usually enjoy the conversation pretty good.
It's me and you hanging out. It's once there's a gathering of people, it just kind of being surrounded by people like irks me.
Here's what I found on the internet.
I have no idea why my phone's been doing that lately.
Thank you, Siri.
She's just random. It's not even Siri. It's fucking Google. Like, it just listens now. But
that's not creepy.
Yeah, no. It's just catching the weirdest snippets of my fucking life because it just randomly turns on. So it's like if you're listening to me to get stuff out of me, literally the other day when she turned on, it's like, I have to trim my toenails, otherwise the talons dig into the front of my toes. They got that, so I don't know if they're gonna start sending me like toenail clipper ads or anything like that, or I shit so hard I had to wipe my balls. Like, I don't know what they're gonna use that information for, but maybe I'll get adult diapers. I don't know.
Thank you. It's very useful information. So, so it's not that I'm.
I really wish I would have said that last part.
I would cut it out, but I don't want to.
No, it stays. Fuck it.
So, it's not that, like, I've thought about, like, it's not agoraphobia. I don't know, like, if I go to, like, a concert or something like that, I'm surrounded by people, I'm anxious the entire time. So just in being surrounded by people, it's hard for me to, like, let loose and enjoy myself. So, I just want to be alone. I'm an introvert.
It tracks. Like, if I had to go to a concert by myself and there's a bunch of strangers around me, I'm probably not going to enjoy myself because... it's things are better shared. Mm-hmm. Like everything in life is better shared.
Maybe not everything.
Well, give me an example of something that's not better shared. Ice cream. Ice cream's not better shared.
Yeah, don't eat my dinner.
I just felt my wife get mad at me for no reason in the back of the house. No, I mean, like food. I think food is good shared. Like if you go to a restaurant and people get different things and you're like trying things off other people's plates, it's like you don't have to go to that restroom 23 times to taste everything. Like other people have other things that they're sharing with you, so you get like a little sample of everything. I really like doing that. In the age of COVID, it's frowned upon now, but
I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that either.
See, I dig
kind
it.
of like I go to a place, I'm like, this is what I want, and then people are like, oh, can I try something? I'm like, I'm not gonna be like, no, mine, leave me alone.
Yeah.
But now it's like, no, I get less. It's like, do you want my thing that you don't like? I'm like, no, I don't really want that.
Well, I mean, I see your point. If you went there with like 10 people and you got a hamburger and it was like, can I have a bite? And be like, motherfucker, there's 12 bites in this hamburger. 10 of you are gonna take a bite. I get 2 bites of my burger. Yeah, that's one thing. But if you go to a restaurant with like say 2 or 3 people, and you just cut them off a taste. I'm not talking like if you have a steak, you're not like, oh, here, just have this left side. You just give them a taste. Like I love doing it with my wife because me and her taste, like she likes fish. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fish person. Mm-hmm. I love shrimp. But like everything from the sea has to pretty much be fried for me.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because I'm from Maine and I hate lobster.
And that's, I wouldn't even say that's weird because honestly, it's like she likes lobster too. Mm-hmm. And she has had different types of lobster, but to me it all tastes like straight up trash.
Yeah, it tastes like buttered seawater.
Well, if anything, you have to, and I still stand by this, and there's going to be so many examples if this ever takes off of people being like, this, you don't have to if you have to have a dip or something other than what the plate is, like a French dip sandwich, it's literally built into the descriptor. But if you make a steak and you have to have steak sauce, it's probably not a great steak. Like it should just taste good on its own by the way the chef prepares it. That's just the way I feel about it. I'm fucking wrong.
Yes. Probably.
Yeah, but I mean, if someone's going to rationalize it and be like, well, they make a hamburger, so just eat the burger.
Yeah, just eat just the burger and not put nothing else on it.
Don't put any condiments on it. But like but it's when you get a steak. If the steak is cooked right and they, season it properly, you don't need A1, you don't need any of that other shit.
I think that's probably for different meats and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, crab, people use butter. Lobster, people use butter. But
I've had because the meat itself is bad. It tastes like buttered seawater. Or it tastes like seawater, and then you put butter on it. Now it tastes like butter.
I'm sure
seawater.
I'm sure someone eventually is going to hand me that one piece of lobster. I'm just gonna be like, "Oh, sweet mystery of life! At last I found you." But I mean, it has not happened yet.
I've because my tastes have changed over time. Like originally, I didn't like black licorice. Like jelly beans.
Yeah,
because
like it tastes like ass.
And now it's good. I like it now.
So yeah.
So I've tried to understand that my tastes are going to change and try different things, and sometimes they do change, and sometimes they don't. Like I tried like a scallop, and I'm like gross. And then like I went out with my mother on her birthday, and we went to like a Italian place that has got like normal stuff I like, and they were getting like seafood stuff and like that, and the oysters just smelled off-putting to me. Like just the smell of oysters were like never. And it's like, would you want to try one of these? I'm like, not from the smell, no.
No, it's
too much for me.
I tried an oyster. My dad used to have this thing. Tangent alert. My dad used to have this thing when I was a kid, where if he wanted me to try different things, and his thing was, he'd be like, take a bite of this, and I'd be like, no. And he'd be like, if you don't like it, you can spit it out in my hand. Now I don't know why. It was more appealing for me to spit it out into his hand to make me try it. But that's what he always said. If you don't like it, you can spit it out in my hand. And he would hold it right there underneath my mouth, and I'd try it. I remember one time he got an oyster, and he dipped it. I think you dip him in cocktail sauce. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, there's a dip for him. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. But anyways, he took it was oyster bake, and they steamed a bunch of oysters or whatever, and he put it in my mouth, and I remember it tasted like a creamy booger, like the texture of it.
Yeah, very snotty.
And like I'd never understood the whole thing about I don't like food. The food can taste perfectly fine, but the
texture's wrong, then it's
And that's when I discovered that texture can throw you off. Now, that was when I was like an 8-year-old kid. I'm a 47-year-old man now, and I still will not eat oysters. I might throw one in my mouth next week and be like, holy shit, I've been missing out. Like, my mom used to make rutabagas when I was a kid. My mom makes a lot of Southern cooking. She made rutabagas. Rutabagas smell like straight up wet shit. Like, when they're cooking, they don't smell good, like, at all. I love collards. I love green beans. I love butter beans. But rutabagas, I always, because you cook the root and the leaf, and it's the root that smells bad, not the leaf. Plus, and mustard greens. Like, that was another one I wouldn't eat, mustard, because it looks slimy, and it was just the look of it. And then, like, I ate it one time when I was a kid, never ate it again. Then finally, I tried it when I went to her house the other night. It was good. So I missed out on like 40 years of that shit. And it made me a little upset, but at the same time, it still smells like wet ass. Yeah. Sorry.
All right, so I think we've said all we're going to say about Turning Red, at least.
Yeah.
Because I sat watched this movie. I didn't get much out of it. There was not. I had a struggle to find things to talk about for this one. Hence why I'm kind of low energy this particular episode. I think is because I'm not into it.
I think if you're a girl, like that was the one thing that Amber kept saying throughout the movie. She was like, I'm getting a lot out of it because this is a lot of stuff that girls have to put up with or that girls encounter. A lot of the relationships apparently, like, to her was spot on too, and how you act when you see boys and blah blah blah. So I think she got more out of it than I did, but then I started looking at it from the lens that I started looking at, and I enjoyed it more. Characters are cute, a little off-putting in places, but cute. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Like, you can't miss usually with Pixar. I still would say that. I'd still say it's worth a watch. Like, I dug it. So,
I mean, I think it's one of those ones that's worth a watch. For like, maybe it's like if you've watched every Pixar movie and you're like, I'm into Pixar movies, then go ahead and give it a watch. If you've never watched, if like Pixar movies aren't your bag, this definitely isn't going to be your bag. And if you've got other stuff to watch over this, I would say watch that other stuff first.
Yeah.
I'm just not into it.
Definitely go back and watch the Toy Story movies. Good stuff. Even
nowadays, it's like the animation on the first one is so off-putting at this point in time. The toys look good because they're characters or something like essentially. But then you see Andy and he looks fucking monstrous.
Yeah,
and like
the bully,
and they just look they look so off-putting and stuff like that. It's
it's especially like the baby. They had the baby that had like the kind of like humanistic face, but then like it was missing like an eye or something like that.
Whereas if you go watch like Toy Story 4 and stuff like that, where the animation at that point in time is actually they've honed their art a bit more, because it was kind of like watch Toy Story, here's like CG, and I'm like, well, I watch like traditional animation and it looks great, and then like look this thing, I'm like, oh, the toys look great, then they show you human, you're like, oh god, why is this replacing hand-drawn art, the stuff I really like?
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
But now it's got to the point where I don't know if I prefer CG over hand-drawn, but they're both good at this point where I'm down for either.
Yeah, well, they've gotten so good at like flattening the lines and honing the curves and everything like that. Because like there's a cartoon that I know a lot of people love called Reboot, and I can't watch it because the blocky animation in it just doesn't look good. It's just like Clone Wars. There's a lot of people who fucking love the Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars. I just think the animation is very unsettling and it's hard for me to watch.
Even still with Rebels, sometimes like it's stylized and you have to get used to the style before you can.
They look stiff.
Yeah.
They look stiff and they look like they're not breathing, and it's. I get it. You have to cut corners in some places to like get stuff out, especially in volume, for like Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that. But still, and then it's just lazy writing. Don't call everything a loath wolf and a loath cat. I mean, fuck, man. Just think of a name for it. A Zyzax. Look, I just gave you the name of the cat.
Come on, Dave Filoni. Stop putting wolves and stuff in Star Wars.
Yeah, but I mean, you and Favreau are doing just great on the other stuff. I keep it up. And if you ever want an interview,
I'm not an interviewer. I said I'm not an interviewer.
No, I'm talking to Favreau and Filoni because I know they're watching this.
Yeah, of course.
Very good friends of mine.
All right. So, anything else you want to say about Turning Red?
Nope.
Me neither. I think So I'm kind of disappointed that this one wasn't. I was hoping for something a little that would pep me up a little bit, and I'm just kind of low energy and kind of meh, which makes me very sad.
It's a departure from your normal stuff, but honestly, it's still a good movie, especially if you're a parent. Like, I think you could get something out of it because, you know, like I said, there's a deeper message there. But yeah, go watch it.
Just like with Encanto, we learn family is important.
Yeah, but like I still hold dear that like Encanto is one that gets better with every single viewing.
I still have only watched it the once. I'll go back and watch it again. But I don't know if it's bored of the family is important messages in Disney movies.
Can you name anything else where the message was family is important?
Like beyond Disney or just in Disney itself?
Let's say in the last 2 years.
For Disney?
Anything.
Family's important. Not off the top of my head, maybe. If I'd probably have to think about it.
So I do like that they're attacking the whole thing of family trauma, because usually it's like girl has problem, boy has problem, and they overcome their problem by, you know, being less socially awkward or you know, understanding that it takes a team to do a job. To me, it's very important that we start looking at family trauma and stuff like that, because it's like people go into things with their best foot forward, and then you don't realize that you are literally choking the air out of this person. You know, like I don't want to be one of those dads that's just like, do whatever you want, Jack, and you just, you know, like no spankings and stuff like that. Every now and then you have to put the fucking hammer down. Don't come take my kid from me, because I don't spank my kid. But
yeah, not the literal hammer.
No, yeah, don't call Protective Child Services or whatever the hell it's called.
Kids need boundaries.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to draw boundaries so they don't kill themselves or they don't become a fucking total dickhead. Like, I think a lot of these parents these days, where you see like the kids that are just like, one of my favorite memes, or it's one of my favorite videos on TikTok right now, is their little girl walks into a room and she screams at their parents. She goes, "Clean my robe," and then someone always cuts in like, you know, them uppercutting the kid or something like that. Something stupid. Like,
yeah.
being
facetious.
Yeah, you could raise assholes. But yeah, I think it's an important message to get across, and I think people just need to be open to it. You're doing fine as a parent. You're doing okay. But like every now and then you have to, you know, hold on loosely, but don't let go. Because if you cling too tightly, you're going to lose control.
Yeah, and end up with. You're looking at me like that's a song reference, and I don't get it.
It's okay. Somebody got it.
Then I threw off what I was going to say.
Sorry.
So there's the aspect of you can't let your kid do absolutely everything that they always want to do, because, I mean, you can't like, I want candy all the time. Yeah, I have candy all the time, and like, I mean, there needs to be some structure there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is just teach your kids to be good people.
And then don't hold on so tightly that they resent you.
Yeah, like you just give them room to breathe and grow. But like any kid that's like growing up in your shadow, they won't thrive. You have to give them sunlight so they can, like, you know, branch out and grow. You can't
and let them like their stupid shit too.
Yeah, like
everything you liked as a kid, your parent thought was stupid, and everything that they liked, their parent thought was stupid. Unless they're like growing up to be like little clones, where like, I was a football player, you're going to be a football player.
Yeah, like just don't put your fucking shit on your kid.
Yeah, let them be their own.
Yeah.
Let them be their own people.
Let them discover stuff and let them grow to become the person they're meant to be, not who you want them to be. And I do think it's important that we're, you know, that we're tackling these things. And now I worry so much when I look at Jack and the world he's walking into. Mm-hmm. And it just makes me panic. But at the same time, I can't fucking control any of it. There's too many people making a lot of bad fucking decisions right now. I can't control any of it. So I am super worried about him. But at the same time, it's kind of like, if you teach him to be a good person and you give him good morals, you know, like,
man, maybe that'll help.
Yeah, maybe he can be a person that contributes for the better, instead of being another person that's just fucking feeding off the carcass of the planet. So I'm going to do my best without trying to... but it's like one of the things that kills me. It's like I want him watching G.I. Joe and I want him watching Transformers and, you know, stuff like that. But it's like if he comes in and says, I like My Little Pony, that'll break my fucking heart. But you know what? I'll sit right there and watch it with him.
Yeah.
And who knows?
Because it's not cartoons that you like.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't want him to be a brony. Not that there's anything wrong with bronies.
It's just you want to have stuff in common with your kids so you can talk to them about
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, exactly.
And if he comes in with like zero in common with you, you're going to be doing those fake conversations where you're excited that he's excited, but you're not excited about what he's excited about. And then you just kind of have to pretend. And then it depends on how good you are at pretending.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, I liked comic books, movies, and like video games. My dad wasn't into any of that. My dad wanted me to like collect baseball cards and shit. So it's like it made conversation very strained. But like when we'd go see movies that we liked together, like Naked Gun, stuff like that, that was shit that we could share together and laugh at.
It's find what you like and go from there. Because I mean, there's like my parents are like outdoors people, and I hate being outside. Like walking outside to get the mail. I'm like, this is a horrible day, Star. Leave me alone. Just leave me inside. So like them going out and I like that I'm older and now I don't have to go do that shit with them anymore, and they can go and enjoy it and then tell me about how the good time they had. I'm like, that was great.
No.
And then I can just stay inside and do my own stupid shit. Like, and then like they'll ask me about like, hey, you played D&D last weekend? How was that? I'm like, it was fine. And then my dad's like, oh, did you win? I'm like, yeah, sure, we sure won. Okay, and just kind of whatever. It's they know what you like, and you just don't really talk about it because they're not interested, and then just talk to the stuff that you share as interests or whatever.
No, and that's ultimately what it is. Like I said, if you're a brony, if you like Powerpuff Girls or any of that shit, it's just because I'm not into it doesn't mean that I should like fuck with you about being into it. If it's your thing, that's awesome. It's just it's going to limit my conversation with you unless you can open my fucking world to it. But if he likes My Little Pony, I will sit right there and watch every fucking episode with him, and I'll just be like, fucking Rainbow Dash. Like I'll do the thing. Because I want to amp him up on stuff that he wants to be amped up on. I don't want to be like, oh, you don't want to watch this because it's a cartoon for girls. It's not. Yeah. It's not a cartoon for girls.
Yeah, watch whatever you like.
Yeah,
you like what you like.
Yeah, but anyways, I think we've talked long enough.
Yeah, we've done talking about the movie for a while now. Now we're just
rambling.
Now we're just rambling. So yeah. I think we'll put the pin in this. It's done.
Yep.
So you've heard our recommendations or lack of recommendations for Turning Red. Let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. Maybe share it while you're down there. If
you could think of any other family trauma movies, like throw them down in the comments, because I think that's a very important thing to tackle.
It is, but so like I've said to Lance before, and he still kind of occasionally throws the shit at me. It's like, if you want me to answer something, don't expect an answer immediately, because my brain doesn't work like that anymore. You have to give me time to process it. So maybe like in an hour or two, I'll be throwing movies out there.
Yeah, I mean, I could already think as soon as I answered it, as soon as I asked the question, I could already think of like one or two things. But like, it's like we keep missing the point. So it's like, stop trying to give the message to the adults, and maybe you can like give it to the kids.
Yeah, to the kids while they're young. And you don't have to notice your trauma earlier, and maybe you can prevent it from becoming like this deep-seated.
Yeah, if you want to go out and do it, if you want to go out and do whatever you want to, eat candy and fucking stay out late and all that shit, guess what? Get a fucking apartment. Because like when you're living underneath your parents' roof, it's kind of their call, because you're literally living rent-free in a person's space and they're feeding you. Like, as soon as you turn 18 and you want to set out on your own, that's when you call all the fucking shots. But
eat all the candy you want.
Yeah.
Just, when you go to the doctor, they're like, yeah, you need to stop eating all the candy you want. It's a suggestion still.
Yeah.
It's just, sometimes it's not bad to take advice from people.
Well, it's still, to this day, at 47 years old, it's like every day I learn something new. It's like I didn't truly know everything that I thought I did. So,
all right.
A lot of life lessons.
Snippet. All right. So, thank you for watching. I've been Nick.
And I've been long-winded.
You definitely got a lot out of this movie. So, thank you for joining us.
Bye.